Alright, picture this. Vision, but with ears. Okay, that sounds a bit weird, but you'd be shocked to find out what some of your favorite superheroes look like before CGI is applied. It makes you respect the actors even more knowing what they look like while they're actually filming the movies. Today's video is all about the shocking ways superhero actors look before and after CGI, and yes, of course we're talking about Henry Cavill's Superman mustache. Let's get started. When you look at Vision's superhero costume in the MCU, you have to feel a little bad for Paul Bettany because it looks incredibly complex. There's a lot of makeup involved in making Bettany all red, and you imagine that when he started playing the character, it was a huge difference from just going to the recording studio every day so often to record his Jarvis line. But you're going to be surprised about the work put into actually bringing Vision to our screens. It sounds like it takes almost as much work as actually bringing Vision to life in the MCU. For starters, those silver covers around Vision's face aren't actually there. It's CGI, which means most of the time, especially for WandaVision, Bettany was just walking around with a completely painted face. And let me tell you, seeing Vision with ears is seriously a little creepy. But he would either be painted all red or in some cases, blue. That's right, because the early episodes of WandaVision were in black and white to match the old sitcom format. It meant painting Bettany a certain shade of blue so that it would show up on camera in black and white better. That's pretty crazy. I respect the chemistry that Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen had even more now, since most of the time they had to act in love with each other, though Bettany had a bright blue face while filming. Of course, we couldn't have this list without the most infamous example of superhero CGI in recent memory. Of course, I'm talking about the dreaded Superman CGI mustache debacle that set the internet on fire. It's one of those stories that will go down in infamy. They shot Justice League, but when Joss Whedon came aboard, they had to edit and add a bunch of new things, meaning all the actors had to come back. Problem was, Henry Cavill was shooting Mission Impossible Fallout where his character had a mustache, and it was in his contract that he couldn't shave it. Paramount refused to yield on that contract clause, forcing them to use CGI to make Henry Cavill look mustacheless in the final Whedon cut. The results were not good, to put it mildly. The whole thing was treated as a huge joke, and we were all amazed that a multi-million-dollar production could not make the CGI on Henry Cavill's face look better. I mean, seriously, at that point they should have just had Superman with a mustache in some scenes and shaved in another. Heck, the rest of that movie didn't make much sense, so why would it matter, right? Rocket Raccoon is a fan favorite character for good reason, but I'm sure we all know there isn't a real-life talking raccoon walking around on set for everyone to act opposite of. The way they actually do it is pretty simple and yet hilarious. It turns out Sean Gunn, brother of James Gunn and known for playing the character of Kraglin, also has done the stand-in work for Rocket Raccoon for the movies. Which means that on set, Sean Gunn is dressed in a green screen suit and crouches down to be the same height as Rocket to do his lines and have his reactions, so that the post-production squad can add in Rocket later. And that kind of takes the magic out of some of the scenes, don't you think? Remember that scene in the first Guardians of the Galaxy when Rocket is sad that Groot sacrificed himself and Drax pets him softly to comfort him? It's a sweet scene, but it's a little different when you know Dave Bautista is actually just petting a leotard-wearing Sean Gunn, right? Yes, I know this list is for superheroes, but Thanos is arguably the superhero in his own story. Plus, I want to talk about giant foam heads and Josh Brolin in crazy motion capture suits. So it's cool and all that Brolin did the physical work for Thanos, which meant setting up all those advanced cameras on his body to capture his movements and facial expressions in order to bring the Mad Titan to life. But there was another problem. Thanos isn't small. He towers over almost every other Avenger, which means while they were filming, it meant having someone like in a foam head raised up to a certain eye line so that other heroes could be looking into Thanos' eyes while talking. Hey, when you put it that way, the single scariest villain the MCU has ever had isn't that scary, is he? When you think of failed superhero movies in the past, the big one people like to point to is Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie. It was supposed to kickstart an entire new franchise, and on paper, the casting of Ryan Reynolds as the sarcastic Hal Jordan was perfect. What could go wrong, right? Well, a lot of things. Besides the movie being a major dud, a huge point of contention was Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern suit. Because the suit was just a projection from the ring, the movie made the choice to make his outfit completely CGI. And yeah, that kind of makes sense, but the execution was just so sloppy. The CGI for the suit was so laughably bad that Ryan Reynolds even joked about it as Deadpool in the Deadpool movie. But to create the Green Lantern CGI suit, it meant that Reynolds needed to dress up in a fancy motion capture suit in order to bring it to life. And let me tell you, seeing Ryan Reynolds strung up on wires, surrounded by nothing but green screen, wearing a strange motion capture suit, makes me sad all over again that Green Lantern wasn't a big hit. Iron Man 2 may not have been a great sequel, but it did give us our first Iron Man and War Machine team-up, and behind the scenes it gave us the joyous image of Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle in different colored spandex that looks like something straight out of Tron for their final battle. I don't mind watching that whole movie again just so I could see these behind-the-scenes videos and pictures of this duo looking hilarious. Do you think they sell these suits at the Halloween store? I hope so. I'd buy 50. The Hulk's CGI has been the one that's probably changed the most over the years. Due to advancing technology, they've done incredible things to bring the Hulk to life, and a lot of the credit is due to Mark Ruffalo for being willing to dress up and jump around to act Hulk-like in order to capture his movements. Part of me wishes instead of the Hulk, we would just get an angry Mark Ruffalo in the movies, don't you? Anyways, on top of that, when people have to interact with the Hulk, you get things like Thor fighting a big foam head, and that's a true treat. Scarlet Witch has proven herself to be one of the most powerful beings in the MCU thanks to WandaVision. But without CGI, then she loses some of her intensity, don't you think? It's a lot of fun watching Scarlet Witch use her magic to blast her enemies, but on set, it must look a little different. Because Elizabeth Olsen isn't magic in real life, shocker, I know, when she's performing on camera, she's really just waving her arms around like one of those inflatable arm wavy things you see at car lots, while she just pretends to summon magic. She does this with the hope that someone in the post-production process will make her look cool in the edit. Thankfully, they do. Wow, Chris Evans, what commitment! You went from looking all scrawny to suddenly looking like you were made of iron for your Captain America movies. Oh wait, no, sorry, that was just CGI. Chris Evans wasn't actually that scrawny in real life, much to my disappointment and my self-esteem. Chris's face was transposed on another actor's scrawny body and then inserted into the movie. The real cool thing was that Chris did actually act in those scenes, but they just inserted the scrawny body in afterwards because Chris wanted the character to have his movements instead of it being someone else's movements. That sounds like a major headache to edit, doesn't it? I'm glad he became buff relatively quickly. Rorschach is one of the scariest heroes on this list. He's not afraid to torture you to get the information, and you'll probably be frightened by his moving inkblot mask. But in real life, would you be as scared of him? Without CGI, the mask is either just all white or just a mask with some black ink spots on it. The real terror comes when it moves, so is he as intimidating without it? Actually, given Rorschach's methods, I'd say yeah, he's absolutely still scary. There's also a legendary rumor that Nick Cage used CGI in Ghost Rider to look absolutely ripped for his shirtless scenes, and although people swear it's real, if this is true, I take back every bad thing I said about CGI and would love some of that work for myself. Who needs the gym when you have CGI abs, right?